We had a lot going on yesterday, a lot of volatility. China was the story. We're moving. I think we're kind of revolving again. It's a revolving door, and I think that revolving door is taking us right back to Greece this morning. So a lot to talk about. China now back to the Greece story, and we have a number of open trades now that we were opportunistic with. I would say mainly opportunistic on what's been the pound. We had a lot of faith that the Aussie couldn't keep that, not that it wouldn't be weak, but Aussie and New Zealand dollar I think was a tricky one for a lot of folks, because the Aussie we expect to be weak, but we did not expect it to be weaker than the New Zealand dollar. I think that was probably one of the trickier, more challenging trades. Would everyone agree? That was probably one of the more challenging trades in our cadre of trades, because of the fact that we expected the New Zealand dollar to be more of a tomato can than the Aussie. Yeah, I agree. So when you look at the performance over the last, what is this? Okay, there we go. Ads. Okay. When you look at the performance this week, I mean, the New Zealand dollar has had a heck of a day. One heck of a day. A week, I should say. And it's been pretty strong. We just need the Aussie to be a little bit stronger. And that would work best for our Aussie Kiwi. And all the while, we need the pound, which has had a kind of struggle this week. It's Thursday. It's going to struggle this week. That's been partly the reason that we've been able to get the fills that we've wanted, right? We can't always just, look, trends are going to correct. So as long as we understand what components of the pair are contributing to the correction, and then we ask ourselves, are they behaving in a way that we think is, one, being triggered off some sort of game changer, which is very rare. If you want to know what a game changer is and just how rare that is, think about the yen. Think about the fact that we had been using the yen as a tomato can for how many, forget weeks, months? Months, right? And then within a weekend, and it was the first of the two Greek weekends that we went into, not this last one with the one previous to it, that's where we pretty much made a 180 on the yen story. But that, and just, from observation, just anecdotally, how often do you see that? We could see spikes and we can see intraday reversals, but a complete 180, not only in the strength to weakness, or in this case, from a weakness story to a strength story, but, enough to really transition trends. That's really, I think, been, again, the biggest shift in our focus, away from that yen, and frankly, away from really thinking for a moment that we have any kind of grip on this risk environment. Sometimes the most empowering thing you can do is basically say, you know what? I don't get this. I don't get this because it's not lining up with typical, it's not syncing up with the gears that I would typically expect it to sync up with. I'm not seeing the clarity. I don't know, and I don't like this, without feeling the need to necessarily justify right away. We'll find the information eventually, but just say, I don't know, and I don't like this, in that Malcolm Gladwell blink kind of way, right? That's why I love that book. I think a lot of times we feel the need to rationalize and justify right away. And this is where I would really recommend another book. And again, I'm not going off on a tangent too far here, but I don't know how many of you have read Simon Sinek, Sinek. The what of what we do is very rational, right? The what of what we do. We are traders. That's what we do. The how of what we do is also pretty rational. We have a strategy, and that's going to ultimately be the way we view the charts and find the opportunities and enter and manage, etc. That's pretty rational too, right? It's the why that Simon Sinek tries to talk about. That's the part that's fuzzy. The how is pretty clear. The what, I think, is very clear, but understanding the why gets very tricky. And I think it's called, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, I think it's called triune brain theory. When I joke and talk about that dinosaur brain, the lizard brain, we talk about that here in the room sometimes. That's your brainstem and your cerebellum, I believe. That's your fight or flight, right? That's the cruise control. That's the, do I want to eat this, kill this, or mate with this mindset? That dinosaur brain, that lizard brain, whatever they call it, right? Then you kind of wander, and trust me, we're going to come full circle with this. Then you have your limbic system, which gets a whole lot more interesting. Your mammalian brain, that's your limbic system. That's emotions, that's memory, and that's habits. The limbic system controls your decisions. Your limbic system controls your decisions. So you have your lizard brain, which I think we're always fighting. By the way, when you trade, do you think there's some fear involved? Maybe not bodily harm, but loss of money is a real fear, gang. That's where your lizard brain kicks in. A lot of you that are struggling to kind of get through a lot of what we're looking at in the markets, buying into these corrections, that's your lizard brain going, what the heck? This is uncomfortable. I don't understand it. I'm scared. Let me go hide in a cave somewhere. That's your lizard brain. That's that fight or flight. Now, others of you, and this is why I find that trigger happy to gun shy scale so interesting. Others of you want to trade right out of it. Others of you just want to start, punching literally at the face of the pair. Because again, it's fight or flight, which is why you're going to find yourself, and I don't know how your cruise control works in your lizard brain, right? That's why I say you need to know. Are you fight or are you flight? Fight would be more that revenge. Fight is let's get in. Not that that's good either. Sometimes going and hiding in the cave isn't necessarily a bad idea. And other times grabbing the spear and, that's... So again, you need to find out how your lizard brain triggers you. I'd say most people are flight. Most. Okay? So again, that's what I talk about, the psychology, because that is absolutely going to dictate what you're going to do. And believe me, your lizard brain is kicking off because loss of capital is a real danger in our modern world. No question about it. Loss aversion. Absolutely, Aziz. Absolutely. So then you get to this decision-making mammalian brain. So the part of your brain that makes decisions, and this is why trading can be difficult for traders who came from losing systems. Because your limbic system has your emotions and your memories. Damn those memories. They have your memories and your habits. Your habits from the old trading system. Your habits from your old way of analyzing the market, right? The emotions that you may have gone through before you became and turned the corner as a successful trader. That's the baggage. Your emotional baggage resides in your mammalian brain, in your limbic system, okay? I studied all this stuff because at some point I'm like, why do I feel like I'm fighting my brain all the time when I'm trading? In a lot of ways, we are. Absolutely, we are. Okay? So the part of your brain that makes decisions controls emotions, memories, habits. We're fighting our mammalian brain. Now you get to the newest part of our brain, the neocortex. Okay? That's your human brain. That's what, that's what turned us from, if you believe it, not to insult anybody, but we're monkeys with car keys, right? Okay, what about the car key part? Human brain, neocortex, language, I think abstract thought, your imagination, your ability to rationalize, that is your neocortex. So if you want to tie in some of the, I believe it's called triune brain theory, if you want to tie that in with Simon Sinek, which I would totally recommend Simon Sinek's 20-minute TED Talk. If you guys have never watched it, really good stuff. It's just interesting, if nothing else. What the heck's on TV that's better anyways, right? Seriously. Check that out. I'll see if I can't find you guys a link. Really good. And then he has a book called Start With Why. And a lot of his theory comes from triune brain theory. I can't recall if he actually gives it credit or not, but a lot of that is triune brain theory. And one of the examples that he uses is why it's so hard to explain, why his example was why you love your wife. How do you take the mammalian brain, emotions, memories, and then assign language and abstract thought to it? So how do you bridge that limbic system, that mammalian brain, and go to that neocortex, the human brain? That's why we say something just feels right. We use these gut type emotion, just jargon, to rationalize how we feel, right? So a lot of times we can't really elaborate. When I ask you guys, I realize you can't always elaborate on, Raghi, that Aussie New Zealand yesterday felt uncomfortable. That's your lizard brain going, okay, fight or flight, right? And for those of you that want to see, okay, where do I fall on this fight or flight scale, if you will? Gun shy or trigger happy, same conversation, by the way. Okay, those of you that said, okay, fight, probably said, I've got a point of validity down at 109.90. I'm going to use the 110 handle. This is where I make my stand. Boom, hands goes up, chin goes down, and you're ready to start jabbing. Right? Fight. Those of you who said, I've had enough, that candle is huge, it scares me, I don't understand, where's the nearest cave? And that's cool too. Lizard brain, that's flight. You're out at the sizzle. And that's cool too. I'm talking about, the extremes of both emotions, but you have to observe your behavior and go, okay, this is the way I'm wired. It's very hard to elaborate on it because from that cerebellum into the limbic system, that's fight or flight into the emotions. Well, you can't really elaborate, quantify, just give words the emotion until you are able to then bridge it over to that neocortex and assign it language. So that's where I believe the neocortex, again, is where we imagine, it's the abstract thought. I think without that part of the neocortex, we'd have a complete disconnect from our mammalian brain. Why is this important to the trading? Raghi, what did you drink this morning? How much coffee did you have? What is going on? Did I sign up for Psychology 101? Yes. Why, yes, you did. Because when you trade, okay, all of this bubbles up to the surface. I used to always say, don't tell me much about you if I'd sit down with a new trader one-on-one. Just let me watch you trade for a day, for a half a day, heck, for an hour, and I will learn everything I really need to learn about you. Because I think it strips away so much, because losing money absolutely just pings our lizard brain, that brainstem cerebellum, that lizard brain. How you reacted to Aussie New Zealand dollars probably going to tell you a lot about the way you are wired. Now, trading books, okay? Trading books are going to tell you that you can change yourself. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I think who you are is pretty much like a Jell-O mold. It is set. Okay? What you want to do now is find out what are your weaknesses, what are your reactions, what are your strengths. Work on your strengths. Make them as big as possible. Most self-help books like, what are your weaknesses and let's get rid of them. Let's change who you are. Not easy. If it were that easy, well, we'd do it. So, in a situation like yesterday was not a typical day. We had a lot of, I think, major, if it wasn't enough that we were watching that Norse map, was that hypnotic or what? That Norse map thing that Trish gave us? We're watching this thing volley. Oh, look at that. Actually, something came out of the U.S. How cool is that? Okay. Watching this, and one of the things is this is happening. NYSE is shut down. We're looking at the NASDAQ, the Nikkei selling off. We're watching the Dow test 17.5. I sent a video out yesterday about the break of the 200. The Dow closes below that 200. Right? Remember, the 200 period simple moving average, the 200 SMAC, transcends technical analysis, gang. The 200 SMAC transcends, I mean, everybody has a certain amount of understanding, reaction to that level. It's just such a simple, obvious level that it's something that'll be talked about in a number of places. Then I sent out a second video. Did you guys get 2 videos from me? The premium video as well? In front of the Aussie? Yes? Okay, in front of the Aussie data? Awesome. And that's where I talked about the Dow and the fact that, and I think I mentioned it in the email as well. I try to send the emails to myself, and for whatever reason, and for whatever reason, it didn't, I didn't send it to myself. How weird. So, in that email, I believe I talked about the Dow and the unpredictability of distribution. And even though we broke the 200, one of the things I mentioned is we didn't have a lot of kind of escape velocity lower through it. It wasn't like the market was really tanking in a way that made me feel that traders just freaked out and all the bids just left, just stepped away. You didn't get that feeling at all. It just happened to be we were really pressuring a technical level. We were really pressuring these areas of the previous lows and the 17.5. Okay? So yes, it's the watch A's and yeah, that's it. That's it, Trish. So in that email and in that video, I talked a bit about the fact that distribution markets are unpredictable by their very nature, but don't believe that just because we broke the 200, boom, we're in a downtrend. In fact, we're still in chop. And chop is unpredictable. I'm still thinking the market's going to find a floor. It sure helps that when I'm talking about this, and last night when the Dow, now, take a look at the Dow pre-market, it's up 162 points. The Nikkei is up 540 points, roughly half of what it lost. Okay, so that does then put pressure back on the yen a little bit. Not completely, but it does put pressure back on the yen. And let's see, yes, and the Trish mentions the U.S. did not have to threaten short sellers, right? Everybody can attack everyone else, just leave me alone to make my pips. Yeah, that's sometimes how it feels, right? Absolutely, Arjun. So if you take a look at the second video had the Trish, the second email that I sent out. So you guys should have gotten 2 emails from me. Yeah, the second one had the conversation about the Dow, right? And I talked a lot about the Aussie setup. So let's transition into this conversation we had. And again, I do want you to think about what I was mentioning regarding that brain theory, because you know, when you and some people call that lizard brain the reptilian brain, but again, when you talk about that lizard brain to mammalian brain, which is that limbic system, to the neocortex, it will reveal a lot about you and the way you trade. And you know, having played this game, and it is a game, gang, trading is absolutely a game. I want you to remember your trust, and a lot of learning is trust. Trust in me, quite frankly, trust in you and what you see, and trust in your, you know, and relatedly, trust in your analysis. Okay? That is your limbic system. That mammalian brain, emotions, memories, habits, that's your limbic system. And a lot of what we do in the markets is trust of ourself, what we're seeing. And without the trust, when you struggle to execute a trade, follow the trading plan, when you struggle to do that, it's going to be one of 2 things. Either a lack of understanding. So that takes me back to one of my little theories. C plus C equals C. Plus I love alliteration. What is that? Comprehension. So just flat out understanding what the heck it is that you're doing. Plus confirmation. That's the trust part. Do I see what I understand? Is it happening in the way that I think it would? And then when you see that happen over and over and over again, you know, when you get that, oh, I've seen that before. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. You know, that, oh, I so nailed that. That's when you get to confidence. That confidence isn't something you just go get. You can fake it till you make it, sure. And not a bad piece of advice, frankly. But until you understand, to whatever degree you need to understand, and you see it working, which is a confirmation, the natural outflow of that is confidence. A lot of that confirmation step, actually every one of those steps, trust is written all over it. And that's your mammalian brain. Emotions, memories, habits. That part of your brain has no control over language. So sometimes it is very difficult to elaborate on what is not clicking, because all that's happening in the part of the brain that does not control language. So that's why I say sometimes those questions are going to hit you later on. That's why. You always say, oh, I get the good questions after the talk, or after I talk to that person, or after the lesson, whatever. That's why. That's absolutely why. Okay? All right, so I think that was kind of a neat way to start the morning. A little 20-minute talk there. So let's go ahead and talk about our open positions.